Chapter 151, 120, The Top Genius of the Genius Class Excelling in Burst Killing. Seeing that all the new students from the ordinary class had given up struggling, Linziken didn't waste any words and walked directly to the martial stage under everyone's gaze. Seeing this, the new students on the martial stage consciously stepped down to make room. As Linziken climbed onto the empty martial stage, a large screen directly above the martial stage immediately displayed a stopwatch timer. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. If the stopwatch reached 1 minute, Linziken would become this year's Rookie King. The top physical tester from Nanjiang Province. Hey! You made quite a name for yourself over the summer break, and I've wanted to face off against you for a while now. Now, let's see what you've got. The muscular young man twisted his wrists, his face filled with fighting spirit as he looked at Linziken on the stage. After speaking, he dashed at high speed towards the distant martial stage. When he was still 20 meters away from the martial stage, he suddenly exerted force in his calves, leaping high into the air and jumping onto the martial stage. The others, upon seeing this, all showed surprise on their faces. That was a gap of 20 meters. With such a bulky body, he intended to jump directly across? How strong must his leg muscles be to accomplish that? Thud! A loud noise rang out. The bulky young man who had just leapt up, the next moment, slammed heavily onto the martial stage. The moment he landed on the martial stage, the stopwatch on the big screen reset to 0 and disappeared. The timer would only appear and start counting when there was a single person on the martial stage. I, Lu Kizi, am the strongest high school scholar in the history of Yuntian Province. 100-meter dash in 5.69 seconds. Vertical jump of 4.52 meters. One-handed weightlifting of 1150 kg. The muscular young man boasted his high school physical test results as soon as he arrived, full of confidence. Hearing these results, all the new students from the ordinary class felt an internal shock. One-handed weightlifting of 1,150 kilograms. These physical test results were exaggeratedly incredible. What's more important is that these were only his high school test results. And now, more than 2 months after the high school exams, how much stronger had this muscular young man become? With such a powerful opponent up first, can Linziken win? He has a chance to win. That Lu Kizi only has exaggerated strength while his jumping and speed don't even reach the average line for valedictorians. He has a big weakness. Hearing your analysis, I feel like Linziken stands a pretty good chance at winning. I also think Linziken can win. The new students below the stage were all predicting the outcome. After some analysis, they all seemed to favor Linziken. At the same time, Li Moyu and others in the corridor on the second floor, as well as a group of school leaders across from them, shared the same view as the students below, believing that Linziken had a high chance of winning. Lu Kizi's strength was indeed great, but it wasn't so overpowering. Instead, his speed and jumping were quite lacking. This would put him at a disadvantage against Linziken. Linziken, aren't you going to announce your high school physical test results? On the stage, seeing that Linziken showed no intention of revealing his test results, Lu Kizi couldn't help but frown slightly. Linziken calmly said, "No need to announce them. You'll find out soon enough." The moment the words fell, Linziken instantly used blink step to rush in front of Lu Kizi and kicked out towards his abdomen. Then, a loud bang was heard. Lu Kizi didn't have time to react, and the next second he felt like he was hit by a high-speed dump truck. His body was flung into the air and he flew backward off the martial stage at a high speed. Not until he had flown about 10 meters did he crash to the ground hard, curling up in a ball in pain, with blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. All those who witnessed this exaggerated scene were shocked. Knocked out with a single kick? This Lu Kizi, a man so large and filled with solid muscles, was actually kicked off the stage by Linziken? How horrifyingly strong must one be to achieve that? Lin Zikin's strength was undoubtedly much greater than Lu Qizi's. At this moment, whether it was the school leaders on the second floor corridor, Li Moyu and others on the same level, or the new students below, all were deeply shaken. Everyone predicted Lin Zikin would win, but no one expected him to win so easily. They thought that he would use his agility to spar with Lu Qizi, gradually draining Lu Qizi's stamina over time to secure the victory. Instead, Lin Zikin didn't go for subtlety but simply kicked Lu Qizi off the stage with a straightforward and brutal kick. This was a slap in the face for everyone present. Soon, Lu Qizi, who was writhing on the ground spitting blood, was carried away by medical staff. Seeing Lu Qizi injured so severely, everyone felt even more fearful of Lin Zikin. This seemingly gentle-mannered young man was definitely a ruthless person at heart. 45s. 40 SIXS. 47s. 48. As soon as Lu Qizi was kicked off the stage, the stopwatch timer appeared on the big screen. And now, the timer was about to reach 1 full minute. Just as the countdown hit 50 SIXS, a muscular long-haired young man on the second floor corridor leaped down. As he landed, his long hair billowed out gracefully. He quickly landed on the martial stage with a thud. Daejeong Province's top scholar Luo Yongjian. 100-meter dash bang. This top scholar from Daejeong Province didn't get to finish boasting his high school physical test results before Lin Zikin kicked him off the martial stage. He lay on the ground writhing in agony, completely incapacitated. At the same time, the big screen once again displayed the stopwatch, beginning the countdown. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. As the stopwatch ticked, the entire gymnasium seethed with excitement. Awesome! Lin Zikin is awesome! Thrilling! To beat down those haughty geniuses of the prodigy class. Our regular class has its own genius too. At that moment, the freshmen of the regular class were all extremely excited. Although Lin Zikin had been the runner-up in the college entrance exam and could have joined the prodigy class, he was fundamentally not from the same world as the new students of the regular class. The fact was that Lin Zikin had not joined the prodigy class but had instead come to the regular class. And at this moment, he was representing the regular class in a crushing victory over the prodigy class. Lin Zikin was the pride of the regular class. All the freshmen of the regular class could share in his victory and bask in his reflected glory. On the second floor corridor, the school leaders were all stunned. The strength Lin Zikin had just displayed on the martial stage had already reached the level of common tier 5, the same tier of brilliance as the unparalleled duo Li Moyu and Ma Ziwei. What exactly is up with Lin Zikin? His physical test data from the college entrance exam didn't even reach common 4th order. How could he have leaped directly to common tier 5 in just one summer vacation? This doesn't make sense at all. Is it possible he concealed his abilities during the college entrance exam? Concealing his abilities is impossible. There's no benefit for him in doing that. Why would he hide his strength without any reason? The school leaders were at a loss, unable to understand why Lin Zikin was so powerful. At this time, Lu Chuanwu smiled and said, "This is the formidable power of the pure-blood human path, you conservative stick-in-the-muds will never understand." The dean of the Mechanical Academy raised an eyebrow, expressing some disbelief. Are you implying that Lin Zikin's current strength is all thanks to your pure-blood human path's efforts? Of course. Lu Chuanwu was smug. Ma Zhenhe was the first to object. President Lu, don't make grand claims for your lousy pure-blood human path. Lin Zikin has only joined Tianren Pavilion for one summer. With just one summer, your pure-blood human path managed to elevate his biological level from common 3rd order, jumping 2 orders and directly evolving to common tier 5. If your pure-blood human path was really that impressive, would Tianren Pavilion have fallen to its current state, left with only 3 people? Ma Zhenhe continued, in my opinion, Lin Zikin definitely concealed his strength during the college entrance exam, it has nothing to do with the pure-blood human path. Lu Chuanwu scoffed, oh, so my pure-blood human path isn't allowed to have had a breakthrough in research. What kind of breakthrough could you have? If there had been one, wouldn't you, with your personality, have already arranged a myriad of media conferences for widespread publicity? After finishing, Ma Zhenhe added, President Liu, if your wretched pure-blood human path ruins Lin Zikan, who's even more talented than the capital city college entrance exams runner-up Song Yuan from years ago, then just wait to be condemned through the ages. As he said these words, Ma Zhenhe felt a pang in his heart. Damn it, so Lin Zikan was so incredible, it was a damn shame he was snagged away by that old dog Lu Chuanyu. If I had known Lin Zikan was this formidable, I would have begged him during the summer vacation to come back to Evolution College to follow the path of genetic fusion. Fuck. Lu Chuanyu, you deserve to die 1,000 deaths. Ma Zhenhe grew angrier the more he thought about it, his face turning beet red with the urge to pin Lu Chuanyu down and pummel him as a form of release. Across the way, on the same second-floor corridor, Li Moyu and Ma Ziwei, along with others, were all wearing expressions of shock on their faces. They couldn't imagine that Lin Zikan was so strong enough to instantly kill the valedictorians from Yuntian Province and Daejiang Province. This was too shocking, simply astonishing. Li Moyu, Ma Ziwei, do you two have the confidence to defeat Lin Zikan? The valedictorian from Taehu Province, a wild young man with a mohawk hairstyle, hesitated for a moment before turning to the side to ask the peerless pair. Seeing the valedictorians from Yuntian Province and Daejiang Province were successively killed by Lin Zikan with just a single kick, he knew that as the valedictorian from Taehu Province, if he faced Lin Zikan, he was definitely destined to be killed in an instant too. In the entire genius class, perhaps only Li Moyu and Ma Ziwei had a chance to win against Lin Zikan. The other 7 top geniuses, hearing the mohawked wild boy asking such a question, turned their gazes unanimously towards Li Moyu and Ma Ziwei. These 7 were like the wild boy, knowing that they too were meant to be instantly killed by Lin Zikan, and could only pin their hopes on the peerless pair. I will win. Facing the gazes cast at him, Li Moyu didn't even think before directly answering. His words were filled with confidence. He was not shaken by Lin Zikan having just instantly killed 2 province valedictorians, nor did he feel that Lin Zikan posed a threat to him. Hearing Li Moyu's response, everyone else felt somewhat surprised. They had not expected Li Moyu to be so confident. It seemed that this valedictorian from the capital city must have some unknown trump cards up his sleeve. Otherwise, he could not be this confident. After hearing Li Moyu's answer, the 7 turned their attention towards Ma Ziwei, waiting for her response. Ma Ziwei didn't know if she could win against Lin Zikan, but seeing Li Moyu speaking so confidently about winning, her prideful self also followed suit, saying, "Can win." Just as she finished these 2 words, a loud shouting came from below. Li Moyu! Ma Ziwei! The stopwatch on the screen is almost at 1 minute, hurry up and choose someone to go up. If you don't go up now, the title of new king is going to fall into the hands of the ordinary class, then the genius class will completely lose face. It was the new students from the genius class who were shouting. It wasn't just one person shouting, but several people shouting together. Being new students of the genius class, they would never allow the title of new king to be taken away by the ordinary class. The title of new king, only those from the genius class are worthy of it. Far away on the martial stage, Lin Zikan, hearing this clamor from the new students of the genius class. He looked up at Li Moyu and the others on the second-floor corridor, and calmly called out to them, "All of you come up together, save time." How arrogant! On the second-floor corridor, someone responded with a voice tinged with anger. The next second, the owner of the voice leaped high from the corridor, jumping towards the martial stage where Lin Zikan was located. It was a slender figure. On top of the head, there were a pair of fluffy purple beast ears. The eyes were pitch black, exuding a strong oppressive force. Next up to take the stage was the daughter of President Ma Zhenhe of Evolution College, Ma Ziwei. Chapter 152, 121, overwhelming. Thud. A loud crashing sound echoed. Ma Ziwei, the only genetic integrator among the freshmen, made a dazzling entrance under the watchful eyes of the audience. She was beautiful, with a slender and curvy figure, and adorable animal ears. Because of her animal-eared appearance, she was extremely popular among the male freshmen and was the dream girl of many. Sister Wei is so cool. Sister Wei, smash Lin Zikan. Show him the real level of the genius class. Chen bro, the regular class is counting on you. Lin Zikan, don't go easy just because she's pretty, you must crush her with all your might. Chen bro, you must win. As soon as Ma Ziwei appeared, the freshmen from the genius class began to cheer for her, their sense of collective class honor was extremely strong. Seeing the genius class cheering, the freshmen from the regular class also shouted tirelessly, cheering for Lin Zikan. Due to the large number of people, the cheers of the regular class freshmen overwhelmed one wave after another, quickly drowning out the cheers from the genius class. Hearing the shouts of the regular class freshmen, feeling the support for Lin Zikan from everyone, Shen Qinghan, who was in the genius class camp, couldn't hold back and also shouted, Xiao Chen, come on! Her voice was crisp and sweet, pleasant to the ear. However, this voice was quite out of place in the genius class camp. Many people turned their heads to look at Shen Qinghan when they heard her shout. Realizing her shout was inappropriate, she instinctively covered her mouth with her hand, bowed her head, and silently moved to the side, reducing her presence. She thought to herself that she must be more cautious in her words and actions in the future. On the martial stage, Lin Zikan and Ma Ziwei paid no attention to the shouting coming from beneath the stage and were sizing each other up. Ma Ziwei was on high alert, staring intently at Lin Zikan. Meanwhile, Lin Zikan was calmly observing Ma Ziwei, carefully studying this sole genetic integrator among all the new students. He had seen countless genetic integrators on screen and in books from a very young age. But this was his first time observing one so closely in person. As for the Ratman from the Rat God cult previously, every encounter had been a life and death crisis, leaving no chance for careful observation. Whoosh! Suddenly, a sound of breaking air rang out. Ma Ziwei, who had just been staring warily at Lin Zikan, instantly turned into a blur and shot towards him like lightning. Unlike the previous top scorers who would still boast their physical test data before fighting, she was ruthless and not verbose, choosing to strike directly. Such speed! Is this the boost from the Shadow Knight Cat's attributes? As Lin Zikan marveled, he slightly shifted his body and easily dodged Ma Ziwei's kick. She was dodged so effortlessly. Missing her strike, Ma Ziwei was shocked and her face began to express doubts about life. Having integrated with the Shadow Knight Cat's gene, her speed had already reached the level of a common Tier 5. Yet, Lin Zikan could easily dodge her kick. The gap in strength between them was too vast. With that thought, Ma Ziwei immediately distanced herself from Lin Zikan. She knew well that she was currently no threat to Lin Zikan. Continuing the attack would be meaningless. I have no chance of beating you now. Give me half a minute to fully activate the Shadow Knight Cat gene in my body, then we can compete. If you attack me during this period, then it would be a disgraceful victory, showing no martial virtue. After morally binding him, Ma Ziwei, who had retreated to the edge of the martial stage, suddenly looked more ferocious as she activated the Shadow Knight Cat gene inside her body. Soon, the characteristics of the Shadow Knight Cat on her body became increasingly apparent at a visible rate. Her animal ears gradually grew larger, fine cat whiskers grew around her mouth, and her eyes progressively became wilder and more oppressive. Her overall appearance shifted from a cute girl with animal ears to a wild and ferocious beast. As the Shadow Knight Cat gene inside her body continued to activate, the biological pressure emanating from Ma Ziwei slowly increased from the level of a common Tier 5 gatekeeper to a relatively high level of a common Tier 5. Lin Zikan, don't let her power up, strike now! Some of the regular class freshmen became anxious and shouted toward Lin Zikin on the stage, fearing he might mess up by showing off. Lin Zikin ignored the shouting from below and observed Ma Ziwei as she activated the Shadow Nightcat gene. This was a rare opportunity to observe, one that could provide insights into the characteristics of those who had integrated the Shadow Nightcat gene. Missing this would be a loss. As for Ma Ziwei becoming stronger, even if she became stronger, she would still be kicked out of the competition in due time. On the second-floor corridor, the school leaders, witnessing the change in Ma Ziwei on the martial stage, all showed surprised expressions. President Ma, your daughter's integration with the Shadow Nightcat gene has already reached this deep. Her talent for genetic fusion is too high, one remarked. A genius, more of a genius than we imagined, another exclaimed. It's just that she's a top scholar from capital city. In terms of talent, she exceeds the top scholars from other provinces, another added. Several school leaders complimented Ma Zhenhe, using praise for his daughter as a way to curry favor with him. Ma Zhenhe did not respond, just furrowed his brows slightly. His daughter, Ma Ziwei, had only recently integrated with the Shadow Nightcat gene, and her body had not fully adapted yet. Too much activation of the Shadow Nightcat gene would cause a certain degree of backlash damage to her body. If nothing unexpected happened, she would probably have to lie in bed to recover for the next half-month. Sighing to himself, Ma Zhenhe thought, this child hasn't changed at all, she's still as competitive as when she was little. Just then, Lu Juanwu spoke, President Ma, your daughter is overexerting her body. If she can win the newcomer king title it might be worth it, but if she can't, it will be a loss for nothing. Ma Zhenhe retorted, ha, overstressing her body is still better than your pure-blood human path. At least when in danger, she can temporarily boost her strength to turn the tide. Your useless pure-blood human path can't overexert even if you wanted to. This was indeed the truth. Lu Juanwu, knowing that the pure-blood human path had no advantage in this regard, fell silent. On the martial stage, Ma Ziwei had activated all of the Shadow Nightcat genes within her, emitting a biopressure that almost reached a common sixth order. Lin Zikin, you're too arrogant, she stated. You just watched me activate the Shadow Nightcat gene in my body, watched me grow continuously stronger. Now, you will pay the price for your arrogance just now. Ma Ziwei looked towards Lin Zikin with more oppressive eyes, speaking in a cold voice. At the end of her words, only a buzzing sound was heard. Ma Ziwei's calves powered up, and in a blink step, she flashed in front of Lin Zikin, lifting her long right leg towards his head. Facing this fierce kick, Lin Zikin's expressions remained unchanged as he effortlessly dodged to the side, just as easily as before. Ma Ziwei's expression changed, unable to believe she still couldn't hit him. How could this be? With this shock, she went all out the next second, not holding back in her attacks on Lin Zikin. Side kicks, whip legs, sweep legs, charging punches, hook punches, straight punches, knee strikes, elbow strikes, flying kicks. Ma Ziwei unleashed all her strength and speed, using every leg and arm technique she knew in a frenzied assault on Lin Zikin. Still, the result was the same, Lin Zikin dodged them all. The freshmen below and the multitude of school leaders on the second-floor corridor were all shocked and incredulous at this display. Ma Ziwei had become so much stronger but still couldn't touch Lin Zikin? What exactly was going on with Lin Zikin? Among them, Lu Juanwu was also very surprised. He was confident Lin Zikin could claim the newcomer king, thanks to Lin Zikin having completed a tempering skin procedure that significantly increased his physical defense. In combat, that meant he could wear down his opponents with his strong resistance. But his opponent couldn't even touch Lin Zikin. The speed Lin Zikin now displayed was excessively strong. At the same time, Yuan Dongji slightly furrowed her brows. She had originally thought Lin Zikin was just an ordinary provincial second-place scholar, and didn't pay much attention to him. But now, the physical strength Lin Zikin demonstrated was not at the level of an ordinary provincial runner-up. Was it the benefit brought by the pure-blood human path? Thinking this, Yuan Dongji looked towards Lu Juanwu, who was not far away. Then, seeing Lu Juanwu and the others also showing surprise, she furrowed her brow even tighter. It wasn't the enhancement of the pure-blood human path. This was Lin Zikin's own strength, completely unrelated to his joining Tianren Pavilion. At that moment, Yuan Dongji realized that Lin Zikin must be harboring a secret. Shen Qinghan and Lin Zikin, this pair of childhood sweethearts, both seemed suspicious. Chapter 153, 122, Real Genius. On the martial stage, Ma Ziwei had been relentlessly attacking with full force, while Lin Zikin was dodging with ease. Seeing that she couldn't hit Lin Zikin no matter what, Ma Ziwei became emotionally imbalanced. The techniques she used to attack Lin Zikin became increasingly underhanded, essentially aiming for vital spots. It was either a poke to the eyes or an attempt to deliver a crippling blow to the groin. After evading hundreds of attacks, feeling that he had collected enough information about the characteristics of a genetic integrator with exotic beast gene of the Shadow Night Cat, Lin Zikin stopped wasting time with Ma Ziwei and raised his hand to punch her in the face. Bang! That was the sound of the punch landing. Suddenly taking a hit, Ma Ziwei's entire face became deformed. Then, carried by the massive force of the punch, she flew out of the martial stage and with a thud fell to the ground, rolling over a dozen times before coming to a stop amidst the crowd. Lin Zikin hadn't put too much strength into that punch. Ma Ziwei was merely sent flying out of the martial stage without being knocked out cold. Soon, with the help of two fellow female geniuses from the freshman class, Ma Ziwei struggled to sit up from the ground. By this time, her beautiful face, hit by the punch, was swollen with internal bleeding, transforming from an oval face into a pig-faced one. Seeing this, many of the regular class freshmen couldn't help but snicker at her misfortune. Even the two genius class girls helping her couldn't help but smile slightly at the sight of her pig-faced appearance, their expressions betraying their urge to laugh despite trying to hold it in. The change was too drastic. 1 second she was a charming and aloof goddess, the next a grotesquely disfigured pig-faced mess, which was hard not to find amusing. Ma Ziwei, hearing the laughter around her, knew her face had been swollen by the hit. She immediately borrowed a cell phone from one of the girls supporting her, using the screen as a mirror to see what had become of her beautiful face. My face! Upon seeing her face swollen into a pig's head, the usual expressionless Ma Ziwei first let out a heart-wrenchingly shrill scream, followed by bursting into tears on the spot. She was beautiful, came from a wealthy background, and achieved excellent grades. She was pampered by everyone around her from a young age. The boys around her would turn into fawning sycophants when facing her, trying every possible way to please her, all for a hint of her favor. However, Lin Zikin, with no regard for her beauty, smashed her face with a punch, ruining her beautiful features and instantly shattering her psychological defenses. Wai Wei. Seeing his precious daughter's face ruined, Ma Zhenhe hurriedly sprang down from the second-floor corridor and rushed over to check on her facial injuries. The injury wasn't severe, there were no broken bones, just swelling. However, the problem was that she had recently undergone genetic fusion and couldn't use medication. This swollen face could only rely on the body's natural healing mechanism to subside, which would take a very long time to fully recover. For a girl, especially one who had always been beautiful, to live with an ugly pig face for an extended period was more unbearable than death. Thinking of this, the doting father Ma Zhenhe became so livid with anger that his face turned red. He looked up at Lin Zikin on the martial stage and fiercely questioned him. Lin Zikin, look at what you've done. It was a normal exchange, Lin Zikin calmly replied. Ma Zhenhe continued to loudly question, did you have to hit the face? Lin Zikin frowned slightly, feeling that Ma Zhenhe was being somewhat unreasonable. Too biased. Was this the case of doting on his daughter to the point of losing all reason? Lin Zikin. In the crowd, a male freshman from the genius class wanted to curry favor with Ma Junhee and pointed directly at Lin Zikin on the stage, loudly condemning, "You hit a girl, and you aimed for her face. Are you even a man?" Hearing this condemnation, Lin Zikin didn't even glance at the timer that was about to reach 1 minute, he simply jumped down from the martial stage and stopped in front of that male genius class freshman. Then, he threw a punch right at the guy's face, swelling it up like a pig's head. "If I can't handle the principal of Evolution College, can't I handle a freshman?" After beating up the genius class freshman, Lin Zikin lightly leapt back onto the martial stage, looked around at the audience below, and declared, "On the path of evolution, there's no distinction between men and women, only between the strong and the weak." Well said. Li Moyu stood on the second-floor corridor, looking down from above at Lin Zikin on the martial stage below, approval on his face as he said, "The path of evolution should indeed only distinguish between the strong and the weak." After speaking, he leapt down with a thud onto the martial stage. In that moment, the eyes of everyone present turned towards this valedictorian from the capital city. "Brother, you beat him mercilessly. Li Moyu, you must avenge Wei Wei. Brother, you're now the hope of the entire genius class. You must win." The freshmen from the genius class began to shout again, their voices several times louder than before. With Ma Ziwei having lost, Li Moyu was now the genius class's last hope. If he lost as well, then the genius class really would have no face to show in the future. Hearing the cheers and shouts from his class, Li Moyu felt a bit thrilled. He had been waiting on the second-floor corridor for so long, just for this moment. He waited until the entire genius class despaired, then he would make his grand entrance. That's how he would pull off the most impressive and satisfying show. Thinking this, Li Moyu stood with his hands behind his back, adopting the pose of a seasoned campaigner as he looked at Lin Zikin and said with a smile feigning profundity, Lin Zikin, I didn't expect you to also be a master at showing off. Pretending to be just an ordinary number 2 in the college entrance examination, then during the opening trials, knocking out a provincial top student with a punch in front of everyone, shocking the entire audience. I must admit, that's somewhat skillful. Unfortunately, it's only destined to become a wedding dress for my moment of glory. Because not only have you hidden your true strength, so have I." As he finished speaking, Li Moyu's eyes instantly hardened. The next second, his muscles rapidly bulged, stretching and bursting his clothes open, revealing an exaggerated physique. At the same time, his eyes glowed a blood-red hue, overflowing with a savage wildness filled with violence. When all was said and done, the biological pressure emanating from Li Moyu had broken through the shackles of Common Tier 5, evolving into the intimidating Common 6th Order that made the new students cower. A genetic integrator? Li Moyu was also a genetic integrator? And moreover, he had integrated with the exotic beast gene of the magic-eyed giant ape. When they saw the blood-red eyes of Li Moyu, the school leaders on the second-floor corridor were all taken aback, their eyes wide open in surprise. The magic-eyed giant ape was a terrifying exotic beast whose biological level could evolve to the rare level upon reaching adulthood. To integrate the gene of an exotic beast at the rare level, the physical body's strength needed to reach a higher level. Otherwise, it simply couldn't withstand the backlash of the exotic beast gene at the rare level. And here was Li Moyu in front of them, whose biological level was still in the common stages, and yet he had successfully fused with the gene of the magic-eyed giant ape, which was just monstrous. The brothers from the Jingdou Li family were the real geniuses. Whether it was Ma Ziwei or Lin Zikin, they were both doomed to pale in his presence. Chapter 154, 123. The outcome has been decided. That's it. I'm afraid I'm going to lose even my underwear. Upstairs in the hallway, Lu Juanwu looked down at Li Moyu with a face ashen as death. Upon seeing the eerie red glow in Li Moyu's eyes and realizing that he was a genetic integrator of the demonic eyes giant ape gene, Lu Juanwu felt a darkness in front of his eyes and his heart twitched. 1900 academic credits. That was 19 million yuan. To pay off that much money all at once, his kidneys were definitely doomed. However, unlike Lu Juanwu, the other school leaders all breathed a sigh of relief at that moment, each of their faces showing smiles. Having just seen Lin Zikin knock out Ma Ziwei with a single punch, they all thought they were bound to lose, allowing Lu Juanwu to make a fortune. Unexpectedly, Li Moyu, an even more talented individual, had emerged midway, completely reversing the situation. It could only be said that the brothers of the Jingdou Li family were indeed formidable. Their talent in genetic fusion far surpassed their peers, leaving them trailing so far behind they couldn't even see their tail lights. Demonic Eyes Giant Ape Gene, Hui. The student union president, Zhou Suihong, looked at Li Moyu on the stage with some surprise. He had always felt that Li Moyu was no ordinary individual. After all, his own brother was the genius of Jing University, Li Yujin, so it stood to reason that Li Moyu, as his younger brother, wouldn't be far behind. However, Zhou Suihong had never imagined that Li Moyu could integrate the Demonic Eyes Giant Ape gene. Li Moyu's biological level was only ordinary, yet he could withstand the backlash from the Demonic Eyes Giant Ape gene. His constitution was truly strong, astonishingly so. His older brother Li Yujin had talent in the rapid integration of various exotic beast genes, albeit all of common biological levels. As the younger brother, Li Moyu's talent lay in integrating exotic beast genes of extremely high levels. The genetic fusion talents of the two brothers, one based on quantity, the other on quality, showed different kinds of strength. But what they had in common was that both were incredibly powerful, so much so that they made most of their talented peers look pale in comparison, and nearly incapable of contesting them. The more talented these two brothers are, the better. The greater their talents, the greater the sense of achievement I'll have when I trample them underfoot in the future. Thinking thus, Zhou Suihong silently smiled. At the beginning of this year, he had lost to Li Yujin in the National College Students' League due to inferior skill. Next year, he planned to crush Li Yujin on the same martial stage and claim the title of the top college student in the country. He was fully confident he could do just that. Below the martial stage, Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin, the pair of best friends, had somehow gathered together among the crowd, chatting and laughing. When Li Chuxin saw Li Moyu on stage suddenly transform into a muscular hunk, exuding a biological level pressure that was at least 6th order ordinary, she was completely stunned. In reality, she had never seen such a strong peer before. The strongest person she had witnessed was her best friend's childhood sweetheart Lin Zikin. But now, Li Moyu's appearance had shattered her perceptions, showing her an even stronger peer. Especially since this peer had dyed yellow hair and looked like a misfit, which created an intense contrast with his current power. Han Han, which province's top student is this little blonde guy from your class? How is he so strong? Li Chuxin asked curiously, linking arms with Shen Qinghan after regaining her composure. Hey! Shen Qinghan replied with some confusion, this little blonde you're talking about just introduced himself on stage as the new student representative before the trial started. You don't recognize him? I didn't want to listen to the school leader's nonsense on stage. I kept my headphones on and played with my phone the whole time. I see. So, which province's top student is this little blonde guy? He's the top scholar from the capital city. The top scholar from the capital city. Li Chuxin's eyes widened in shock. This little blonde was the top scholar from the capital city? What the hell? Why would the top scholar from the capital city choose to come all the way to Shan University, instead of attending the stronger and closer Jing University? Li Chuxin was baffled but didn't dwell on it for long. She soon sighed, oh, Zi Chen is so wronged. This capital city top scholar should have been at Jing University, but he ended up coming to Shan University. Otherwise, Zikin would have been the king of the new students at Shan University. It's such a pity. Shen Qinghan listened with a smile and didn't say a word, her heart racing with excitement. Not rooting for Xiao Chen, hey? Just wait, Xiao Chen will knock out the capital city top scholar with one punch and astonish you to the point of dropping your jaw. Below the martial stage. A spot with fewer people, hidden in the blind spot of the surveillance. Liu Gang and Wang Shijia, at this moment, were both looking down at their watches. On the narrow screen of the watch, some newly appeared small text was densely packed together, making it somewhat daunting to read. For the average person, a magnifying glass would have been necessary to make out the words. However, both Liu Gang and Wang Shijia had enhanced their vision over the summer, so even if the text was as small as grains of sand, they could still make out the content clearly. I've just placed an advanced magic seed in a park outside the school, at the same spot as before. Make sure the two of you come out to pick it up later. When you get the chance, see that Li Moyu swallows this advanced magic seed. After reading the message, both Liu Gang and Wang Shijia's expressions changed. Among them, Liu Gang replied to the other, Li Moyu is a young master of the Jingdou Li family. There might be too much risk in having him ingest the magic seed, wouldn't there? He felt that as a young master of the Jingdou Li family, even if Li Moyu consumed the magic seed, he wouldn't easily capitulate to the organization. It was likely that he would make a big fuss. And when that happened, he and Wang Shijia would definitely be exposed and retaliated against by the Jingdou Li family. Chapter 155, 123, The outcome has been decided. It took only a moment before the reply came. The organization's background is far more powerful than you imagine. The Jingdou Li family is nothing, easily crushed with a snap of the fingers. Liu Gang asked curiously, what exactly is the background of the organization? The other side replied, ask less, do more. After reading the message, Liu Gang looked up at Wang Shijia and asked in lip reading, Shu Ji, shall we do it? Wang Shijia replied in lip reading, do you think we have a choice? Liu Gang said, how about we ask Principal Yuan for help? Maybe she has a way to solve this. Wang Shijia said, she definitely has a way to solve it, but whether we can survive afterwards is another matter. Wang Shijia continued, moreover, I don't think joining the organization is a bad thing. At least we are much stronger than before and have more potential. Wang Shijia added, most importantly, I agree with the organization's philosophy. As humans, we can't save the people of Earth. Liu Gang said, that's true. After a brief lip-reading exchange, the two decided to follow the organization's arrangement. Exotic beast gene of the demon-eyed giant ape? On the martial stage, Lin Zikan raised an eyebrow, full of interest towards Li Moyu in front of him. He overheard the voices of the school leaders in the second-floor corridor, learning that the exotic beast gene Li Moyu fused with was that of the demon-eyed giant ape. Lin Zikan remembered reading about this type of exotic beast in books when he was younger. It was a kind of beast that was maxed out in strength and defense, but somewhat slow in speed. The biological level of adult individuals was on average high level. A small number of powerful individuals could reach the rare level. All in all, it was an extremely powerful and terrifying exotic beast, capable of eating giant mutant rats as snacks. Despite only being of ordinary biological level, Li Moyu was remarkably capable of fusing the exotic beast gene of a species that could reach the highest rare level into his body. As he thought about this, Lin Zikan carefully observed Li Moyu in front of him. At that moment, Li Moyu had completely activated the demon-eyed giant ape gene within him. His stature had increased by a full 50% over its size before activation. His muscles were all bulging prominently. The lines and proportions were comparable to the Hulk. His entire body radiated explosive power. Lin Zikan also noticed something else, just like on the martial stage, the speed at which Li Moyu activated the exotic beast gene was much faster than Ma Ziwei's. It was almost in the blink of an eye that Li Moyu activated the demon-eyed giant ape gene within him. Then, he rapidly transformed into a being brimming with explosive muscular power, pushing his biological intimidation to ordinary 6th order, possessing strength comparable to a 6th order creature. From this, it was clear that Li Moyu's abilities were much stronger than Ma Ziwei's. Li Moyu, who had fused with the demon-eyed giant ape gene, was worth collecting data on. Lin Zikin. The transformed Li Moyu spoke. With his arms crossed and standing at his newly acquired height of over 2 meters, he looked down at Lin Zikin from his elevated position and said, Ma Ziwei is strong, and along with me, we are hailed as the unparalleled pair of freshmen at Shan University. But in reality, the gap between her and me is like heaven and earth. If you can knock her out with one punch, I can too, and I would do it even more effortlessly than you. I wonder if you will still be able to perform as effortlessly when facing me next. I think it's unlikely. Because the one who's going to be at ease next will only be me, Li Moyu buzz. Before Li Moyu could finish speaking, a sharp breaking sound suddenly rang out in front of him. Lin Zikin made his move. He didn't want to listen to Li Moyu's incessant babbling, choosing to take a quick step forward and swing his fist at Li Moyu's non-stop chattering mouth, intending to use his fist to break off the little brat's babbling spell casting. Fuck! Faced with Lin Zikin's sudden sneak attack, Li Moyu cursed out loud, then quickly sidestepped to dodge the incoming punch. Good reflexes, dodging a punch I controlled at ordinary 6th order speed. Thinking this, Lin Zikin swung another punch at Li Moyu, this time with the speed of an ordinary 7th order. At this moment, Li Moyu was still in the midst of dodging the first punch, facing Lin Zikin's almost uninterrupted second punch. He had no time to react and dodge. Only a bang could be heard. Lin Zikin's fist heavily smashed into Li Moyu's face, warping it instantly and leaving a clear red mark. This punch wasn't too forceful, he used only as much strength as he had previously used on Ma Ziwei's face. Because of this, Li Moyu didn't go flying backwards but only staggered 2 steps back. At the same time, his face didn't swell up, but it hurt so much that he covered it with one hand, grimacing in pain. Strong defense, seems to be on a relatively high level for ordinary 6th order. Lin Zikin silently appraised as he watched Li Moyu holding his face in pain. Playing sneaky, don't you have any martial ethics, Li Moyu said, touching the half of his face that took a punch while squinting at Lin Zikin. Suddenly taking a punch from Lin Zikin made him feel humiliated, and he was somewhat enraged. However, he soon stretched his mouth into a smile and said, "Now, I've got my full attention on you, your fists will probably find it hard to hit me." Lin Zikin didn't respond, but once again flashed in front of Li Moyu and swung his fists at his face, retesting his reaction speed. This time, a prepared Li Moyu indeed reacted much faster. At the same ordinary 7th order speed, Lin Zikin threw 52 punches in a short 10 seconds, but only 9 landed, bruising the corners of Li Moyu's mouth. On the second floor of the corridor, the school leaders were all watching the duel on the martial stage intently. Upon seeing Lin Zikin's speed of 5 punches per second, everyone's expressions turned to surprise. Lin Zikin's speed is too exaggerated, it looks even faster than Ma Ziwei, who has fused with the Shadow Nightcat gene. I have no idea how he managed to train like this. It's fast, but unfortunately, it hasn't caused much damage to Li Moyu. The outcome of their duel has been decided. Indeed, Li Moyu might be slower, but he has tough skin, extremely high defensive capability, and can withstand his punches. On the other hand, if he takes a punch from Li Moyu, he's likely to fall right there. Yes, the margin for error between the two isn't on the same level. It seems like this year's newcomer king will be Li Moyu. After discussing among themselves, the school leaders all felt that the duel was over and that Li Moyu would become the newcomer king. Among them, Ma Zhenhe first looked at President Lu Juanwu beside him and said with a smug face, "President Lu, it looks like you're going to lose your pants this time." Lu Juanwu didn't react to him, just furrowed his brows tightly. Hoping that Lin Zikin would be smart enough not to clash head-on with Li Moyu and instead use a maneuvering approach to engage in a war of attrition. That way, Lin Zikin might still stand a slim chance of winning. Chapter 156, 124, the Rookie King is born. On the martial stage. After testing Li Moyu's reaction speed again, Lin Zikin took a light leap backward and created some distance from Li Moyu. Next, he intended to test Li Moyu's final attribute strength. Li Moyu had no idea what Lin Zikin was thinking and assumed that Lin Zikin had retreated because his attacks proved ineffective, compelling him to stop and pull back. Thinking this, he couldn't help but laugh. Lin Zikin, I underestimated your speed. But alas, your strength is too weak. Even if you are fast enough to hit me, you can't inflict any substantial damage. You're bound to lose this duel. Now it's my turn. With that, he forcefully propelled himself off his calves as if he were a cannonball shot out, swinging his cauldron-sized fist toward Lin Zikin's face. Lin Zikin loved to punch people in the face, so he would return the favor to let Lin Zikin taste what it was like to get smacked in the face with a heavy punch. Faced with Li Moyu's high-speed charge, Lin Zikin just stood there without moving an inch, showing no intention to dodge. He was going to take Li Moyu's hit head-on to test his strength. Lin Zikin, dodge! The ordinary class students below the stage yelled anxiously, seeing him still standing there unmoved. On the other hand, the school leaders on the second-floor corridor all revealed smiles, delighted at the prospect of winning 100 academic credits. Especially Ma Zhenhe, whose grin was more unbearable than an AK, fully prepared to mock Lu Juanwu. On the martial stage, as Li Moyu reached Lin Zikin, he vigorously swung his fist right toward Lin Zikin's face. During its flight, the fist produced a bursting sound due to its extreme speed and formidable strength, sounding explosively powerful. Everyone knew that if this punch landed on Lin Zikin's face, Lin Zikin would be undoubtedly defeated. But just when everyone thought the duel would end, an unbelievable scene occurred. With a loud bang, Li Moyu's power-packed punch landed heavily on Lin Zikin's face. Then, Lin Zikin didn't budge, nor was he sent flying off the martial stage by that punch. On the contrary, Li Moyu's expression suddenly changed drastically, and he let out an agonized scream of awe. My hand! My hand is shattered! Li Moyu knelt on the ground, clutching his right hand tightly. He curled up, his forehead pressed against the ground, and his mouth emitted extremely painful cries. His entire right hand, wrist, and part of his arm were now comminuted fractures. The cause of the fracture was that his hand wasn't as hard as Lin Zikin's face, the bones in his hand had cracked broken in the instant his fist struck. In an instant, excruciating pain swept through his body, making him grimace in terror and scream out loud, so much so that his saliva and mucus uncontrollably dripped down. What's going on? What happened to Li Moyu? What on earth is happening? Did Lin Zikin win? At that moment, the entire stadium became noisy. Everyone was dumbfounded, unable to understand the scene that unfolded on the martial stage. Li Moyu clearly punched Lin Zikin in the face, so why was it Li Moyu who was screaming? This scene was too strange. On the martial stage, Lin Zikin, looking at Li Moyu kneeling on the ground, silently assessed, a genetic integrator of the demon eye giant ape has great strength, strong enough to shatter his own hand. Strength is greater than defense. Then, he shouted towards the medical staff still confused below the stage, Li Moyu's right hand seems to be a comminuted fracture, hurry up and come help him with emergency treatment. Li Moyu sustained a comminuted fracture in his right hand? Hearing Lin Zikin say this, a flicker of surprise crossed the medical staff's faces. Subsequently, they all hurriedly rushed onto the martial stage and began inspecting the injury on Li Moyu's right hand. When they saw Li Moyu's entire right hand deformed, they were all shocked, unable to believe what they saw. Make way! At this moment, a cool female voice resonated on the martial stage. It was Yuan Dongji. She had silently descended from the second-floor corridor to the martial stage. Seeing her, the medical staff quickly made room. Yuan Dongji stepped forward to Li Moyu, picked up his right hand, and checked the injury with her spiritual power. Upon finding the entire right hand, along with the wrist and part of the arm, had comminuted fractures, Yuan Dongji was immensely shocked inside. How did this injury occur? His hand hit Lin Zikin's face and was then injured by the recoil from his own strength? How hard must Lin Zikin's face be? While thinking, Yuan Dongji took out a snow-white pill, flicked it accurately into Li Moyu's mouth with her finger, and helped him quickly heal his hand injury. At the same time, she imperceptibly released her spiritual power, invading Lin Zikin's body to carefully investigate. Lin Zikin's senses were extremely sharp, and he detected Yuan Dongji using spiritual power to investigate him the moment it happened. But he could only act as if he hadn't noticed, allowing Yuan Dongji to continue her probe. He just hoped that his biometric attribute natural camouflage would deceive Yuan Dongji's inspection. After a thorough check, Yuan Dongji learned that Lin Zikin's biological level was an ordinary 6th order, with skin strength far surpassing that of others at the same level, and the strength of his facial bones and muscles was absurdly high. Apart from these, nothing else seemed out of the ordinary. But this was strange. Why were just the facial bones and muscles absurdly strong, while other parts seemed normal? Chapter 157, 124, The Birth of the Rookie King _2. This does not conform to human physiological structure. Yuan Dongji furrowed her brows slightly, feeling quite perplexed by this. After thinking for a moment, she couldn't come up with an explanation. Soon, she leapt up and left the martial stage, returning to the second-floor corridor. As soon as she landed, other school leaders asked her what exactly had happened below. She didn't say much. She only mentioned that Li Moyu's right hand had suffered comminuted fracture, Lin Zikin's biological level was as high as a common 6th order, and Lin Zikin's facial bones and muscles had naturally extreme strength. She pointed out these 3 details mainly to explain the bizarre scene that had just unfolded on the martial stage. As for Lin Zikin using the blood tempering technique to complete a tempering skin session, she chose to conceal that. The other school leaders, hearing her say this, were all incredulous. Lin Zikin's biological level was as high as a common 6th order? But how could a freshman who had just started school, without undergoing genetic fusion or mechanical modification, evolve to a common 6th order biological level? This must be some exotic beast in human skin. The more the school leaders thought about it, the more absurd it seemed. Lu Chuanwu also found it preposterous, but he still feigned composure and said, "This is the power of the pure-blood human path, this is the power of the blood tempering technique." The others, upon hearing that, couldn't help but twitch their mouths slightly, mentally scoffing at him. "Lu Chuanwu, just give it up, will you? You were clearly so scared of losing that you turned pale, and now you have the nerve to take credit for the pure-blood human path?" Off to the side, Yuan Dongji quietly watched Lin Zikin on the martial stage below, her face thoughtful. This Lin Zikin, could he be the same kind of person as Kyungsu? No, that's not right. It's probably not possible. Aside from possessing physical strength far surpassing their peers, there's nothing similar about them at all. On the martial stage, seeing Yuan Dongji leave just like that, Lin Zikin knew that the effect of his biometric attribute natural camouflage had successfully deceived her, the vice president of Shanghai University. He felt a slight thrill in his heart about this. The effect of the biometric attribute was much stronger than he had imagined. Meanwhile, Li Moyu, whose right hand had just been shattered, had already fully recovered. He clenched his right hand, and seeing that it was as good as new, he was deeply shocked. What kind of miraculous medicine was that white pill Yuan Dongji had me swallow? How is its healing effect so powerful? Without thinking too much about it, Li Moyu quickly shifted his gaze to Lin Zikin in front of him. The thought of the punch he had just thrown at Lin Zikin's face made his right hand uncontrollably tremble, leaving him with some psychological shadow. That punch was unbearably painful, to the extent that it felt like his nerves were spasming. After steadying his emotions somewhat, Li Moyu looked at Lin Zikin as if he were looking at a monster and asked, "What exactly is your strength?" Lin Zikin did not answer, but instead countered, "Is your hand okay?" It's fine, good as new. Li Moyu flexed his right hand in front of Lin Zikin to prove that it had healed. Lin Zikin nodded, that's good then. With those words, he took a step and rushed towards Li Moyu, kicking him in the abdomen and sending him flying off the martial stage. Li Moyu, still in mid-air, was filled with question marks. Was asking about my hand just so you could kick me off the stage without any guilt? Ones. Twos. Threes. Fours. The moment Li Moyu was kicked off the stage, a timer immediately appeared on the big screen and began counting. When the timer reached tens, Li Moyu got up from the ground and shouted toward Lin Zikin on the martial stage, Lin Zikin, when my genetic fusion advances further, I will come back to challenge you, and I will definitely beat you on the martial stage. He mercilessly heckled, shouting even louder, as if you're the only one who can undergo genetic fusion. Lin Zikin can also undergo genetic fusion, and could just spend his whole life shitting on your head. Li Moyu replied with both confidence and stubbornness. My adaptation rate for genetic fusion is as high as 16%, and I'm bolstered by various special constitutions. On the path of genetic fusion, no one but my brother Li Yujin can be stronger than me. Hilarious. Some other regular class freshmen laughed in mockery, what a sight, I've lived this long and this is the first time I've seen someone lose with such a brazen attitude. A freshman from the genius class retorted, I don't know what you're pretending for, Li Moyu losing to Lin Zikin isn't like losing to you. As long as I am a student in the regular class and Lin Zikin remains in the regular class, I can keep laughing at you genius class. Loser, where do you get the face to laugh? Youths brimming with vigor, they easily started arguing. As more and more people joined the battlefield, it gradually turned into a heated exchange of words between the ordinary class and the genius class. On the martial stage, Lin Zikin stood quietly alone, waiting for the stopwatch to hit 1 minute and claim the title of new king. During this time, not a single person dared to challenge him on stage. Everyone was either caught up in the heated arguments or silently watching the stopwatch on the big screen, awaiting the birth of the new king. 57s. 58s. 59s. 60s. As the stopwatch reached the 60s mark, a fluorescent light shot out from the big screen, landing on Lin Zikin's face to complete facial recognition. At the moment of successful facial recognition, Lin Zikin's entrance photograph appeared on the screen. Above the photograph was a very conspicuous congratulatory message, Congratulations to Lin Zikin from Martial Arts Class 1 for becoming the new king of this year. Although he didn't attend classes, his student registration was still with Martial Arts Class 1. Immediately afterward, the gymnasium's broadcast system also played the congratulatory message, Congratulations to Lin Zikin from Martial Arts Class 1 for becoming the new king of this year. At this moment, the entire gymnasium fell silent. Everyone found it surreal. The title of new king, unbelievably, had been claimed by a freshman from an ordinary class. In the many years since Shanghai University was founded, it was the first time a non-genius class freshman had overwhelmed a genius class freshman to become the new king. It was a breach of school history. At this very moment, everyone was witnessing this incredible instant. Shortly after, the whole venue started to boil over. Ziyi Chen, awesome! Lin Zikin really captured the new king title, this is way too incredible. Ziyi Chen, the glory of the ordinary class. A large number of ordinary class freshmen were cheering for Lin Zikin as well as the ordinary class. Meanwhile, the students from the genius class felt a bit ashamed, standing quietly and silently throughout the whole event. On the martial stage, Lin Zikin paid no attention to the cheers from below. Using his biometric attribute Eyes of the Sky, he quickly spotted Shen Qinghan in the crowd below. Then, he leaped high to Shen Qinghan's side, wrapped an arm around her waist, and with another leap, brought her back onto the martial stage. Many people in the audience were puzzled by this scene. Some who knew the relationship between the two thought Lin Zikin was seizing the spotlight as the new king to publicly declare his relationship with Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan also thought so. Her pretty face flushing hot and her heart pounding with nervous anticipation, she couldn't help but squeeze her legs together. Just as everyone's eyes focused on the martial stage, Lin Zikin unexpectedly jumped down from the stage, leaving Shen Qinghan alone on it. At the same time, the big screen immediately started the stopwatch again, as usual, timing the event. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. As the stopwatch began, Lin Zikin said to the group of genius class freshmen below, "For the 2nd to 10th places, I'm taking them all." These words made the whole venue fall silent instantly. Everyone was shocked. It wasn't enough for him to become the new king, he even wanted to claim the 2nd to 10th places for himself? How greedy! Seeing Lin Zikin's audacity in wanting to monopolize the top 10 ranks for himself, someone from the genius class could not bear it anymore and shouted out in anger. "Lin Zikin, you're going too far. Let's all from the genius class go together and take him down. Damn, let's rush him. If we don't beat him down today, I'll write my name backward. And that traitor Shen Qinghan on the martial stage, beat her up too. Pin her down on the martial stage and rub her hard." At this moment, almost all of the genius class freshmen sprung into action, united like players in a game teaming up against a boss, and swarmed toward Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan. As for the concepts of unfairness in a mass brawl, they didn't care at all. They had but one goal, to take down the excessively audacious Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, the genius class traitor. Chapter 158, 125, One person wipes out the entire genius class. "I'll take the front, you guys flank from all sides. I'm on the flank. I'll guerrilla and sneak attack, providing support for you." The newcomers from the genius class had clear roles and begun to coordinate with each other, aiming to overwhelm Lin Zikin with their numerical advantage. Facing the genius class newcomers coming at him from all directions, Lin Zikin wasn't in the mood to play house with them and immediately started an overpowering performance with a flash of his figure. Bursting forth at the speed of an ordinary 7th rank, he proactively sprinted to the front of each attacking genius class newcomer. Regardless of whether they were male or female, he knocked them down with one punch each. Bang! 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 A series of rapid punches could be heard. Just a moment ago, the genius class newcomers had been surrounding Lin Zikin. The next moment, they were sent flying one after another. Then, they all crashed to the ground, curling up in pain, unable to stand back up. Buzz! As Lin Zikin was exchanging blows with a group of genius class newcomers, a whizzing sound suddenly rang through the crowd. It was Ma Ziwei making her move. Taking advantage of Lin Zikin's distraction, she burst out from the crowd in an instant, with a pig-headed face flying toward the martial stage, her target aimed directly at Shen Qinghan on the stage. Lin Zikin had swollen her face, and as an eye for an eye revenge, she planned to do the same to Shen Qinghan. Let Lin Zikin watch as his beautiful fiancé's face swells into a pig head to see what he would think. "Traitor, receive your death." As Ma Ziwei sprinted to a distance of more than 20 meters from the martial stage, she violently pushed off the ground with her calves. Leaping high into the air and tracing a perfect parabola towards the martial stage. Just as she was about to land on the martial stage, Lin Zikin leaped forth, instantly catapulting behind her and fiercely kicking her upturned buttocks. Next, a bang was heard. Midair, Ma Ziwei felt as if her buttocks were about to split open. The very next second, she was flung out by the powerful impact coming from her butt, crashing heavily into the crowd, too pained to get back up. Seeing this, President Ma on the second-floor corridor immediately jumped into the crowd, anxiously checking his daughter's injuries. Fortunately, the injuries weren't severe, just a swollen butt. Over at the martial stage, under Li Moyu's leadership, the genius class newcomers quickly launched a second round of attacks. This attack was even more ferocious than the first one. However, they still couldn't withstand Linziken's punches and kicks and were overthrown in an instant. All the people present were stunned by this scene. Originally, everyone had thought that at the start of the school year trial, all the regular class newcomers would unite to attack the genius class, striving to take a top 10 ranking from them. But now, it had completely flipped. Because Linziken was so strong, it turned into all the genius class newcomers attacking him alone, just to prevent him from monopolizing all the top 10 rankings for himself. What shocked people most was that the entire genius class, despite mobilizing all its members, couldn't beat Linziken. That was the entire genius class. Among them were the capital city's top scholar Li Moyu, the fourth-ranked Ma Ziwei, and various other peerless geniuses from different provinces. Yet, despite such an exaggerated paper strength, they were helpless against Linziken at this moment. Being punched and kicked without any power to fight back, they were utterly overpowered by him the whole time. This scene was utterly unprecedented. About half a minute later, aside from the traitor Shen Qinghan, the rest of the genius class newcomers were knocked down by Linziken, all curled up on the ground in pain, unable to stand, completely devoid of fighting capability. The ringleader Li Moyu took the worst beating, his face swollen up like a pig's head, even more severe than what had been done to Ma Ziwei before. By this time, the stopwatch on the big screen was almost at 1 minute. 57s. 58s. 59s. 60s. When the timer reached 60s, the big screen, like before, performed facial recognition on the person on the martial stage. Immediately after, Shen Qinghan's student photo appeared on the big screen, congratulating her for achieving second place in the school trial. Seeing that the second place had been successfully claimed, Linziken leapt onto the martial stage and shouted at the ordinary class freshman below, "Who wants to be third in the school trial? The ranking is yours. The credits are mine. Me. Zi Chen, let me be third. Zi Chen, I'm up." In an instant, the ordinary class freshmen were all eagerly volunteering, each wanting to experience the feeling of standing on the martial stage under the spotlight. Linziken surveyed the crowd, and eventually chose Li Chuxin, who had been shouting all along, and called out to her. "Chu Xin, come up." "Coming." Li Chuxin was so excited that she quickly squeezed her way out of the crowd and leaped energetically onto the martial stage. At the same time that she went on stage, Linziken walked down with Shen Qinghan. Afterward, as usual, the big screen over the empty martial stage started the countdown timer. From 1s to 60s, no one dared to disturb her, all of them stood below, watching as Li Chuxin took the third place. Having easily secured the 80 credits for third place, Linziken wasted no time and quickly picked a random ordinary class freshman to go up and become the fourth place, grabbing the 70 credits for himself. At the same time, on the second floor corridor, seeing that the talented class freshman from Evolution College had gained nothing, Ma Zhenhe turned to Yuan Dongji and said, "Principal Yuan, what Linziken is doing seems somewhat against the rules. He's already won the title of the top newcomer, so how can he still act as an enforcer and monopolize the top 10 by finding puppets? How is it against the rules?" Lu Chuanwu was the first to jump out in opposition, bluntly retorting, "Come on, President Ma, you tell me, when has the school trial ever stipulated that one can't act as an enforcer to secure the top 10? Ma Zhenhe said, "Indeed, there is no explicit rule against it, but that doesn't mean Linziken's actions are justifiable. What he's doing now is exploiting loopholes in the rules, and it should be stopped." In the past, the top newcomer was always determined through life and death fights within the talented class. They would also be nearly exhausted after securing the title of top newcomer. But this year, Linziken was an exception. His strength was unmatched, far surpassing the other freshmen, and he single-handedly blew up the entire talented class. Without so much as taking a breather, his attacks were dimensionally overwhelming. And afterwards, he still had plenty of strength left to act as an enforcer and take over the top 10. President Ma has a point, this indeed is a loophole in the rules. After saying that, the Dean of the Mechanical Academy added, however, we can only fix it next year, not now, as it wouldn't be fair to Lin Zikin. The other school authorities also said, indeed, the trial is already underway, it's not reasonable to change the rules now. We'll have to wait until next year to make amendments. Although these school authorities didn't like Lu Juanwu or Tianren Pavilion, they were still quite reasonable people. Of course, the main reason was that they were now benefiting from the current situation. For every ordinary class freshman that Lin Zikin brought into the top 10, all ordinary class freshmen would receive 1 credit point. These were free resources, why not take them? Hearing what the other school authorities had to say, Ma Zhenhe knew he had touched upon the interests of other academies and tactfully fell silent. But his expression was sour, clearly holding back anger. Yuan Dongji glanced at him and said indifferently, President Ma, you've been increasingly unstable recently. It's best to slow down the integration progress of the Fire Eagle gene, lest it affect your daily life. Ma Zhenhe's expression softened as he replied, understood, Principal Yuan. Chapter 159, 126. Lin Zikin's Secret. About half an hour later, the school trial finally came to an end. Aside from Shen Qinghan, who came in second, the rest of the top 10 were all taken by new students from the regular classes. As a result, every new student from the internal school district's regular classes pilfered 9 credits each. That's basically like getting handed 90,000 yuan for free. Some of the regular class new students from less affluent backgrounds blushed with excitement. Under the impact of 90,000 yuan, they looked up to Lin Zikin with admiration and became his most loyal fans. The more extroverted among them even went so far as to call him Lord Chen eagerly, as if they were ready to kneel and acknowledge him as their godfather on the spot. Lin Zikin paid no attention to the cheers around him. At the moment, he was tallying up the benefits he had gained from participating in the school trial in his mind. The top 10 credits totaled up to 550 credits. Adding the 9 credits he received for being a new student from the regular classes brings the total to 559 credits. Additionally, there were the 10 Qi blood pills from Lu Juanwu. And 1 credit can essentially be used as 10,000 yuan. 559 credits would then equal 5.59 million yuan. This one battle had made him directly rich. In the time that followed, the top 10 of the school trial proceeded to the stage to receive honors and take photos with the school leaders. As the newly crowned king of the newcomers, Lin Zikin received not only a 100 credits reward but also an additional champion trophy. The trophy was made of special alloy, heavy and looked exquisite. But it wasn't worth any money, serving only as a memento. After the photographs were taken, Lin Zikin had the other top 10 new students transfer their credits to him through the school's app. Shen Qinghan also opened the app to transfer credits, but Lin Zikin told her there was no need and asked her to keep the 90 credits she earned for coming in second for herself. Seeing Lin Zikin say this, Shen Qinghan didn't make a fuss and kept the credits for her personal use. She wouldn't just take those 90 credits without giving something back, she would compensate Lin Zikin in another way in the future. Not far away, Lu Juanwu saw Lin Zikin collecting transferred credits from others, which reminded him of the bet he made with his colleagues. He looked towards the other school leaders and reminded them, "Don't forget about our bet, everyone. Lin Zikin has won the title of the top newcomer, so you can transfer the credits you owe me through the school app now. Rest assured, you won't be shortchanged. It's just 100 credits, I'm transferring them to you right now." Everyone honored their bets promptly, transferring the agreed credits to Lu Juanwu without any delay. Seeing 1,900 credits deposited into his account, Lu Juanwu couldn't stop smiling. With this large amount of credits, he wouldn't have to worry about providing Lin Zikin with triple benefits for a good while. Noticing his arch-rival smiling so jubilantly, Ma Zhenhe felt displeased and couldn't resist saying, "President Lu, I'd advise you not to be too smug. Becoming the top newcomer in the school trial just means having a physically strong body. When the others advance further with their genetic fusion and mechanical enhancements, the power structure will undergo a great shift. In next semester's newcomer competition, whether it's Li Moyu or Wei Wei, they will easily crush him as long as Lin Zikin continues on the pure-blood human path. After Ma Zhenhe finished, he added, Song Yuan is an example. And Lin Zikin is nothing but an upgraded version of her. Seeing him constantly using Song Yuan as a negative example, President Liu frowned slightly, feeling displeased. But remembering the 1,900 credits he had just earned, his mood vastly improved and he couldn't be bothered to bicker with Ma Zhenhe. Soon after, Lu Chuanwu went over to Lin Zikin, gave him the 10 Qi blood pills they had previously discussed, and decided to advance all the triple benefits for the entire semester to him at once. The benefits included various items like credits, exotic beast meat, scholarships, and so on. For convenience, Lu Chuanwu converted these benefits into credits and transferred 300 credits to Lin Zikin. With these 300 credits included, Lin Zikin's student account now totaled 769 credits. Now that he had so many credits, Lin Zikin immediately opened the school's app mall to see what he could purchase. But before he had the chance to look, Lu Chuanwu said he wanted to discuss something with him and asked for a word in private. Picking a spot nearby, they went up to the rooftop of the sports hall to talk. After telling Shen Qinghan to head back first, Lin Zikin quickly followed Lu Chuanwu to the rooftop. As soon as they arrived, Lu Chuanwu, with a face full of curiosity, couldn't wait to ask, Ziai Chen, you were too strong in the opening trial of the semester. How much strength did you hide? I hid a little. What's your real level? Ordinary 6th order, 1 tempering skin session, a bit of muscle conditioning on the face, and naturally hard facial bones. You've actually learned tempering flesh. Lu Chuanwu was shocked, his breathing suddenly became rapid, and then he was incredibly excited. To learn tempering flesh just after starting school. Lin Zikin's compatibility with the blood tempering technique was unbelievably high. There really was hope for the pure-blood human path to make a breakthrough. No. It was definitely going to break through. Lu Chuanwu, who had devoted his life to researching the pure-blood human path, had never been as excited as he was today. After calming his emotions slightly, he earnestly said to Lin Zikin, before today, I would have said you had a good chance of evolving into an advanced level creature with the body of a pure-blood human. But now, I can say with certainty that you can evolve into an advanced level creature before you graduate from university with the body of a pure-blood human. You must persevere on the pure-blood human path, and you will surely achieve great things in the future. Don't worry, President, I will, replied Lin Zikin confidently. They chatted briefly. Soon, Lin Zikin left the rooftop and returned to Shen Qinghan's dormitory. There was just one thing he wanted to do right away: shop in the school's app marketplace. And just as he left, Yuan Dongji appeared on the rooftop right after him. This new student of yours, Lin Zikin, is hiding many secrets. His true strength may be far greater than what he showed in the opening trial. Yuan Dongji walked up to Lu Chuanwu and said. Lu Chuanwu chuckled, what genius doesn't have secrets? Li Moya from the capital city has them, Ma Zhenhe's daughter has them, and your newly accepted cheaper disciple surely has them too. What's so strange about that? Yuan Dongji, true. With his hands clasped behind his back, Lu Chuanwu said, on the path of evolution. Those who can succeed are all complex in their own right, and those without secrets simply can't grow. As he spoke, he looked at Yuan Dongji, his gaze somewhat profound. Your casual use of spiritual power to probe Lin Zikin's body on the martial stage earlier is a very offensive act. If it had been in the past, that would have meant a fight to the death. Yuan Dongji raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. You could tell I was using spiritual power to probe him. Lu Chuanwu didn't explain but simply snorted coldly. Yuan Dongji, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be too aggressive, or sooner or later, disaster will strike. Yuan Dongji ignored the advice, speaking indifferently, gathering tonight. Too busy. There's money in it. At your place or mine? Lu Chuanwu instantly asked with a smile on his face. In a certain dormitory at the school, Lu Gang and Wang Shijia were together, discussing how to make Li Moyu swallow that high-grade demon seed. The two racked their brains for a long time, but couldn't come up with a good plan. Force was definitely not an option, because they simply couldn't beat him. As for temptation, Li Moyu was the young master of the Jingdo Li family, he had everything he wanted and couldn't be tempted. While the two were taxing their brains, thinking hard, their special watches suddenly displayed a dense block of text. Change of plan, forget about Li Moyu, target Lin Zikan instead. Find a way to make Lin Zikan consume that high-grade demon seed and make him a member of the organization. Chapter 160, 127. It's better to rely on oneself than on others. Leaving the gymnasium's rooftop, he returned to the dormitory. As soon as Lin Zikan entered, he saw Shen Qinghan exercising in the training room. Without the air conditioner on, she was drenched in sweat. For convenience and comfort, Shen Qinghan wasn't wearing underwear while training. The soaked clothes clung tightly to her body, perfectly showcasing her graceful figure in a very tempting way. Witnessing this scene, Lin Zikan couldn't help but feel a bit sentimental. The little girl who used to shyly wet the bed had unknowingly grown into a beautiful young woman with perfect looks and figure, a heartthrob to thousands. Looking back now, it seemed as if in the blink of an eye, she had suddenly grown up, giving him the surreal feeling of playing a nurturing game. He allowed himself a few moments of such reflections. Soon after, Lin Zikan sat down on the sofa and pulled out his phone to browse the school apps mall, often referred to by the seniors as the credit mall. Gene reagents, alloy equipment, high-tech gadgets, and so on. He merely glanced at them, focusing instead on the exotic beast meat. He browsed for almost half an hour. Eventually, Lin Zikan's gaze settled on the undead slug meat. He had seen this type of exotic beast meat in a mall before the college entrance exam, selling for 100,000 a pound. In the credit mall, however, it cost only 8 credits per pound. It was like getting a 20% discount, much cheaper. Without a doubt, this must have been a special price available only to Shan University students. He now had a total of 769 credits. At 8 credits a pound, he could buy 96 pounds. The remaining 4 pounds he could buy with money from an outside mall. That way, he could unlock the Undead Slug album. He was curious about the biometric attributes he might gain. Thinking this, Lin Zikan was about to place an order in the mall for 96 pounds of undead slug meat. Just as he was about to submit the order, he had a second thought, feeling that doing so wasn't quite right. A freshman who suddenly spends over 700 credits on undead slug meat, this behavior would look abnormal no matter how you sliced it, surely drawing others' attention. To avoid unnecessary trouble, it would be better to spread out the purchases over time. He'd buy a bit every so often. For now, he decided to buy just 10 pounds. With that decision made, Lin Zikan spent 80 credits to order 10 pounds of undead slug meat. After completing his purchase, he took out the chi blood pills that Lu Chuanwu had given him. There were 10 in total. Each one was the size of a soybean, bright red and glossy, emitting a faint and pleasant fragrance. Lin Zikan tried one, popping it into his mouth. It melted upon entry, turning into a warm stream and flooding into his body, making him feel warmly invigorated. Simultaneously, a digital prompt popped up in the void. Chi blood plus 108. Is that all the chi blood it adds? The effect was less impressive than simply running a few kilometers with the boost of his biometric attribute, from Yu Spring's strength, which would increase his chi blood more. Better to give them to Han Han. Her biological level is low, the effect should be good on her. As Lin Zikan was contemplating this, Shen Qinghan happened to walk out of the training room. She was holding a pair of fruit earphones still playing music and stopped beside Lin Zikin, somewhat out of breath. "When did you get back?" she asked. "I came back half an hour ago." Lin Zikin handed her a chi blood pill and then said, "Here, try a chi blood pill and see how it works." Shen Qinghan accepted it without hesitation and swallowed it immediately. A few seconds later, her body started to sweat profusely, her cheeks turned a rosy red, and she seemed to be overheating. "How do you feel?" Lin Zikin asked while looking at Shen Qinghan. Looking pleasantly surprised, Shen Qinghan said, "My body feels so warm, and my chi blood feels much fuller." "Xiao Chen, this chi blood pill is really good." "That's good. Take the remaining 8. Eat no more than 1 a day." "Aren't you going to have one?" "I've just had one. It's not that effective for me, it would be a waste." "Oh, I see." Shen Qinghan nodded and took the small bottle Lin Zikin handed her. Gazing at the 8 chi blood pills in the bottle, she smiled sweetly and said, "With both credits and chi blood pills, it feels like I'm being sponsored by a sugar daddy." Lin Zikin chuckled and replied, "If anyone is being sponsored, it's me by you. I'm living in your dorm after all. Then we're mutually sponsoring each other," Shen Qinghan said with a smile, and then she asked, "What would you like for dinner tonight?" "I'll go cook it for you." Lin Zikin thought for a moment and replied, "Eating regular meals gets a bit tiresome, let's have some soup noodles instead, and a plate of cucumber salad. What do you think?" "Sure, leave it to me. Dinner will be ready in half an hour." Shen Qinghan assured him with a pat on her chest. After that, she started to undress while heading to the bathroom. She had worked up too much sweat during the exercise and needed to take a shower to cool off and change into clean clothes before heading to the kitchen to cook. After dinner, the two sat on the sofa, delving into their books to study a variety of complex evolutionary knowledge. After roughly 2 hours, when the food they had eaten had mostly digested, they went into the training room to exercise. Shen Qinghan was doing strength training. Lin Zikin sat cross-legged on the ground, undergoing his second tempering skin session. Around 11 p.m. the two finished their training, took a shower together, and went to bed in their room. However, they didn't go straight to sleep but lay there and started chatting. "Xiao Chen, your performance in today's school trial was too exaggerated, the so-called peerless geniuses in my class were all dumbfounded by you, I bet they're still questioning their lives right now." "It's not that serious." "It is that serious." Shen Qinghan's hands were restless, skillfully massaging Lin Zikin while speaking, "I just scrolled through the school forum, and everyone is discussing you there. A lot of people are demoralized because of you. Not just the freshmen, but also the seniors. Quite a few sophomores, juniors, and even seniors say they could never take on the entire freshman genius class on their own, claiming you're an exotic beast in human skin. Also, I saw someone on the forum creating a group, and the group's name is Chen God Support Club, so, you've got another fan club." At this point, Shen Qinghan couldn't help but express her envy. From kindergarten to university, you've always had a huge fan base supporting you. That feeling of being the center of attention must be great. Lin Zikin, actually, having too many fans can be troublesome at times. Shen Qinghan disagreed, you'd only find it troublesome after experiencing it a lot. For someone like me who's never experienced it, being the center of attention like you would definitely feel amazing. Lin Zikin, with your genetic fusion compatibility as high as 21%, you'll surely have your day in the spotlight too. I think so too. I hope that day comes soon. While speaking, Shen Qinghan felt her hands getting sore, so she stopped her movements, her peach blossom eyes shimmering, and said to Lin Zikin, "You know I saw a video on your phone where the female lead massages the male lead with her feet. It looked pretty comfortable, do you want to try it?" "Sure." Lin Zikin agreed without hesitation. After all, he was the one being massaged, he just had to lie on the bed with his eyes closed and enjoy, so there was no reason not to try. Soon, Shen Qinghan awkwardly started to massage Lin Zikin with her feet. This was her way of making it up to him. After all, just within that day, she had received 90 credits and 9 chi blood pills from Lin Zikin. If she didn't properly compensate Lin Zikin, she would feel as though she was being kept by him. She didn't like that kind of unequal relationship. She preferred a relationship where both sides contribute. Time passed by every minute and second. About half an hour later, Shen Qinghan stopped the massage movements of her feet. It was mid-September, the weather was hot, and her naturally sweaty physique left her covered in a layer of fine sweat. Especially her delicate little feet, which were now sticky. "I've sweated a lot, do you want to go for a bath together?" Shen Qinghan grabbed some tissues to wipe herself and Lin Zikin clean, then suggested to him. Hearing this, Lin Zikin sat up from the bed, swept her into his arms, got out of bed and walked toward the bathroom. Laughing, "As a return for the massage you just gave me, I'll scrub your back while we bathe." The next day, Lin Zikin got up early to make breakfast. It was very simple: a slice of bread, a grilled sausage, an egg, plus a glass of milk. Before long, Shen Qinghan emerged from the room, bleary-eyed. After she washed up and ate breakfast, they left the house together, went downstairs, and then went their separate ways. Upon arriving at the Pure Human Research Institute, Lin Zikin entered the living recreational area and saw Song Yuan, as before, doing yoga inside. "Morning, new king." As soon as she saw Lin Zikin arrive, Song Yuan stopped her yoga, sat cross-legged on a mat, and cheerfully greeted him with that title. Lin Zikin responded with a smile, "Morning, Sister Yan. Come on, sit here with Sister Yan, I really want to talk to you." Song Yuan smiled, patting the spot next to her, beckoning Lin Zikin to sit beside her. Lin Zikin walked over and sat down. He knew what Song Yuan wanted to talk about. It was undoubtedly about the trials from the previous day. "I heard from the Dean that your biological level is actually a normal 6th order, and you've learned tempering flesh as well?" Song Yuan asked with bright apricot eyes. Lin Zikin nodded, "Right." Hearing his answer, Song Yuan's face showed disbelief. "My God, Zi Chen, you are too much of a genius, truly. Compared to you, I feel like capital city's runner-up is just a waste." Excitement tinged her voice as she continued, "With you joining, the pure-blood human path is definitely going to make a splash. We at Tianren Pavilion are going to shock the world and change the public's perception." "All right, let's work hard together," Lin Zikin said, turning his gaze away. Song Yuan's outfit had a neckline that was far too low, revealing too much cleavage. After a few more exchanges, soon, Lin Zikin got up and left the living recreational area, heading straight for the research area. He didn't go there to conduct research but to study the text of the blood tempering technique scripture. Lu Juanwu and Song Yuan had researched it for years without being able to comprehend the contents of the technique's opening chapter. Lin Zikin felt that he couldn't rely on them anymore, he had to rely on himself. Once he learned the text on the blood tempering technique scripture, he was sure to achieve research results faster than Lu Juanwu and Song Yuan ever could. After all, the effect of the biometric attributes of heavenly intelligence wasn't a joke. It would undoubtedly produce more with less effort in such research tasks. No, more with less effort was still too conservative. Boldly put, it would yield 100 times more with half the effort.